سنای ایالات متحده آمریکا، کمیته های خارجی و تخصیص بودجه. استماع جان کری وزیر خارجه 18 آوریل 2013 29 فروردین 92.
I'm very concerned about the safety of people in Camp Liberty.
جان کری: من نسبت به حفاظت مجاهدین در لیبرتی نگران هستم و موقعی که در عراق بودم آن را با مالکی ترک کردم.
It would be a betrayal if we let these people have a bad fate.
سناتور لیندزی گراهام، نایب رئیس زیر کمیته تخصیص بودجه: این خیانت خواهد بود اگر که بگذاریم این افراد سرنوشت بدی داشته باشند.
Iran. I am very concerned about Iran's nuclear ambitions. I was discouraged to see the last round of the P5+1 talks, where I saw there was no real intention by the Iranians really to have any commitment to moving forward in that regard. The problem here is that we saw a report that they have more sophisticated centrifuges, that they have progressed far more than many expected at this time, according to reports that came out of the IAEA. The centrifuges are spinning, the clock is ticking, and they seem to be managing the sanctions that we have levied so far. And if they think that the status quo continues to move forward, they'll continue to manage it in a way that they will move forward. My question is, what do we do going from here? Is there, for example, additional support in the Security Council to take additional action? And what's your view? There is talk within the Senate, someone who has led on this issue, I know there's Senator Kirk and others. What is your view of sanctions that would require the acceleration of significant reductions in petroleum purchase by foreign nations, or that would limit Iran's access to its foreign currency reserves as additional items that might create a tipping point in their attitude?
Mr. Chairman, I share your concern. The President shares your concern. There is no question but that the last round of talks was less than the United States hoped for. However, our policy is clear, and there's no variation in it. The clock is ticking, and the Iranians, I believe, know that.
I saw your response to the House Committee on Camp Ashraf. I actually have different information that which we'd like to share with the department. I think there's a different set of views about the willingness of people if there's a certain security. So some of the big ticket items, some are maybe don't rise to that level, but they're very important to the people who are involved. With that, the record will stay open until the close of business of Monday, and this hearing is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Camp Liberty. Remember the MEG situation, the Iranian population in Iraq. Could you give us an update of what we're trying to do there?
I will. First of all, I'm very concerned about the safety of people in Camp Liberty, and I understand the passion of the folks from the MEK who show up at many of the hearings here.
I understand it too.
But the fact is that Camp Ashraf, as it was when they used to be there, really doesn't exist the same way anymore, number one. Number two, that camp is very close to the Iranian border, and it has been a tinderbox with respect to Iranian, Iraq, and Camp Ashraf issues. Number three, a key component of the MEK's delisting from a foreign terrorist organization classification was their cooperation to move from Camp Ashraf to Camp Liberty. And there is an MOU between the government of Iraq and the UN that provides a legal basis, a binding basis for protecting the residents of the camp and facilitating a process of repatriation, but that's predicated on them moving from Ashraf. So there's a very complicated deal here. Ashraf sits in the middle of the Eyalat province. The Eyalat province is one of the more violent and dangerous provinces in the country. So the purpose of moving them out of there was really to try to provide greater protection. And, you know, I think the bottom line is we're trying to relocate them. Now, that relocation process has gone through a slight hiccup or two in the last months. A lot of countries have been approached by us and asked, will you take some people? And frankly, we've been finding a very, you know, we've had a hard time. We're not finding takers. We are conducting interviews. More than, you know, several thousand have been interviewed. But in the interview process that's been going on, that stopped because the interviewees sort of said, no, we're not going to submit to the interviews now. We want to go back to Ashraf. So there's been a back and forth here, folks, that's been very, very complicated.
Well, Mr. Secretary, obviously you're very aware of the situation, as you are of almost everything I talked to you about. So please keep the committee informed. We want to help. It would be a betrayal if we let these people have a bad fate.
And I'm worried about their safety. I raised that with Prime Minister Maliki when I was in Iraq. Technically, the Iraqis have...
We got a whole continent to do in about 30 seconds. Africa.